Bitcoin family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support every one of you shares with me. From the heart, gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype the video. Thank you. Well, everyone, getting right into the reaction of today. Today, I want to react on something the homie Luis recommended or asked me to react, right? It's a current video or article that they put out about an individual that basically got his daughter kidnapped, and they basically named him Mata Narcos, right? Here in Culiacan, where I'm at. But I want to start off with, the short I used came from Darka Myth. Do please go over there, give him a like. I really look for the angle they used on this because it's a common knowledge type of thing here in Culiacan, right? And the only one that put out a full video on this was Crimen Sellado. So do please go check it out so that you're able to compare, right, at least. But anyways, allow me to take you back. No, I was still busted, as I recall. I was going from the state to the feds, and in this movement, for a long time, there was this individual, right, right downtown Culiacan. He had a ferreteria, where they sell tools and all that, and he was well known because back in the days, he was an original sicario. Now you hear the word sicario and it's a Taliban basically, right? The one that works for so and so and takes care of so and so and is doing the dirt for so and so. Back then it wasn't like that. Here in Culiacan, if you were a sicario, you didn't have a boss. They did their thing, and your thing was only to be a sicario. For example, this group tells you, looks for a sicario, I got so and so, I want dome, I'll give you 50K. You go in, do your dirt, and you're not tied to that organization, if I make sense. That's what it used to be, right? Within time, it manifests to what we see today, right? But anyways, this individual, he's from the Sierra out here, right? He was well known that back in the days he was a sicario, but in that style, right? They used to call him la liebre de la Sierra. Facts are though, things change. He didn't want no part of it. He came down to Culiacan. He got himself a little store that would give him to eat every day and just mind his business, right? But, around this time, there was a lot of chaos. What I mean is, on this article, they present the individuals of being from the four letters, right, of Jalisco, and it's dead wrong. You know, what happened out here in Culiacan was with the Carrillo Fuentes. Those are a little aware of the history out here. They've been out here in Culiacan, or they used to be tough out here, right? And when they pulled out, a lot of people were left behind that belonged to their faction. And when they left behind, they didn't really have the wiggles or the means to keep working the material. So they went about kidnapping, torturing, things like that, right? And that's what exactly happened to La Liebre. Keep in mind, all these individuals that were left behind, they're wet behind the ears, right? They're new booties. They don't know the history of Culiacan, the people that's here. If you're from here, you see someone, at the end of the day, it's a city, but it's a rancho, right? Everybody knows a little history about everybody, you know. But if you're from outside, of course, you know. But anyways, basically, what happened is they wanted feria, right? So they went to this individual's daughter's school and they picked her up. And basically, they called her and or called him, excuse me, asking him for a couple million pesos for them to return his daughter. You know, that never happens. Let me just be clear about it. When you pick up someone for ransom, either you know too much, you see something, you're gonna pay them, they're gonna still clip your family member. You know, so this individual took the correct actions. Excuse me. You know, first and foremost, on this article they speak about Chapulín or something to that effect. But that individual that was leadering the Carrillos left behind was el Grillo. Sorry, you know, and basically they were staying up in the Sierra of Viraguato, which little did they know that La Liebre, that's where he grew up at. He knew it like the back of his hand. You know, as my family told me the story, right? Because they supported this man big time, right? Because at the end of the day, they didn't want no kidnaps, no extortions, type of thing in Sinaloa, right? This is all before this war you're seeing today. And basically, he figured out where they were at. For those that are aware of the Sierra de Guato, there's a little town called Los Sauces. Los Sauces is it's small. I don't even know what to compare it to. There's a lot of land because it's the Sierra, but let's just say it's like a neighbor. It's like a block or a neighborhood in a town of California, right? Or the state. It's small. There's very small. So he figured out where they were and everything, and he took matters into his own hands. He started clipping them. Again, he was an original sicario. That's all he dedicated himself to. He didn't know how to move weight, take care of people that owe money, sell dope. The only thing he was hired as a sicario was to go in and kill. That's what a sicario was, right? Now, he started hunting them down. By the time they figured out that he was hunting them down and it was due to his daughter, he was already there in Los Houses where they were hiding, right? And he went in and there was two individuals there. A real famous one from the Carrillos. And like I said, El Grillo, right? And basically, they were taking care of the leader there. And he went in and he domed them. He took care of them, dispatched them, freed his daughter. You know, the irony of the story is that they would eventually get caught, right? But everybody wanted them out of uh, out of Culiacan, period, right? Out of the Sierra, where their bosses were at, right? Down in Juarez in that area. And basically, he did some time for it, you know. And Aguaruto, I don't know if you guys know where Aguaruto is. It's literally Culiacan, right? It's all like different neighborhoods from Culiacan. But as he went in, there was a lot of rumors they were going to kill him, right? Because at one point, Carrillo Fuentes were deep in there. But By this time, they weren't around. So you could say the judges ended up sidelining with him. They only gave him 4 years for the 15 sicarios he killed. And he got out. And I'm not going to say he enjoyed his life, right? In the stories they put out, supposedly Homeboy died here in Culiacan, which is not true. Shortly after this, they sold the store. The son and the daughter, including him, they moved out to a different state. But it's a real famous story out here in Culiacan. La Liebre de la Sierra, he literally on his own went against the Carrillo Fuentes. Not only rescued his daughter, but took out the whole crew that was left behind, which was 15 individuals. And we're not talking about you sit in the middle of the street and you go back and forth with these cats, right? He hunted them down up in the Sierra up here of Sinaloa. For those that have been up there, you know, you could go on and on and on for days, and you're walking around in circles if you don't know where you're at, you know? But, again, I touching on this because the boy Luis asked me to do this reaction. So that's a true story, you know. La Liebre de Sierra at one point was a bad sicario. But a real sicario, right? And they wouldn't mess around with his daughter. And that fool, it's true, you know. One by one, he gunned them down. Rescued his daughter, did time. He had a lot of offers to work. Believe me, that includes a certain family member, right? Because he knew he knew how to do his thing, you know. But I guess the reaction here is, you know, me being from Culiacan, I wish things were like that, you know, where those that we used to get paid to just go dome for family or for ex, whatever, will lift up and say enough's enough. Because, you know, I remember when the old mans were out here, they put a stop to all that. Kidnapping, ransom, you know, if girls owed money, they take them to the stash house or la casa de espera, as they call it here, and, you know, do them dirty deeds with them and dome them, chop up people, different eras, you know. Now you're seeing all that by the factions that at one point were supposed to be against that. But anyways, everyone, I hope I made sense of it. Yes, this story that again, to see it in full, go to Crimen Sellado. That's the name of the channel. He has it all on there. Listen to it and just, if you can, pinpoint what they're saying and do separate the myth from it. This is a true story here in Culiacan. Unfortunately, I was busted, but 2019 that I was already out here, you know, that store still exists. Just like I said, they moved out because you could say here in Culiacan was a hub of narcos, right? He wanted peace. But now I don't think there's a corner in Mexico, right? But do go check it out. You know, uncles, tias, primos. They actually showed me a couple of the spots where this happened up in those houses. Again, this is a small world, but this was a quick reaction. Please tell me what I gotta work on, what I'm missing, and the reactions, so I could get better at it, you know? Since I've been on here, it's been a combined thing, at least in the other channel. You guys know I don't only answer, but I appreciate friendships. With this said, hope you continue to enjoy your Saturday. Please enjoy life, stay true to yourself, loyal to loved ones.
See you in the next video. Thank you for your time and for being part of this wonderful YouTube family. See you next time.